And you're live, Chairman. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this meeting of the Performance, Governance and Audit Committee held on the 6th of December 2024. My name is Councillor Wendy Steinp and I'm the Chairperson of this committee. Members, we are streaming this meeting live as well as recording, and by being present in the meeting, you are given your consent to speak to being recorded. During each item, please put your hand up to indicate if you wish to speak. I will then invite you at the appropriate time. Could I ask members to avoid approaching the top table, as this could create interference with the cameras and live stream. Please note that the YouTube live stream sound recording is dependent on the correct use of the microphones. Therefore, can I ask that when you're invited to speak, remember to turn on your microphone and turn it off when finished, members. Please reference a page and paragraph number when referring to the agenda papers and keep your contributions as clear and as concise as possible. We do not have a fire alarm test scheduled for today. If you hear the fire alarm, please exit using either of the two marked fire escape routes. Once out of the building, please proceed to the designated muster point located on the grass verge by the police station entrance. Agenda item 2, members, apologies for absence. Tara, can I have apologies for absence, please, or substitutions?
Yes, Chairman, thank you. Apologies received from Councillor Stilts, Mr Smith, the independent person, and Councillor Thompson has advised that she may be running a bit late, and Councillor Lagan is attending as a substitute for Councillor Stilts. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Welcome, Councillor Lagan.
Chair, apologies from Councillor Jade Hughes, please.
And Tara, did you get that? Apologies for Councillor Hughes.
Councillor Hughes, yes, I've got that. Thank you, Chairman. I'll make a note.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Yes.
Sorry, just when you read out the meeting, you said it was on the 6th of December. It's the 5th.
Is it the 5th today?
Yeah. All day until.
Is it? Because I've put the 6th in big letters. I do apologise. Thank you.
Sorry.
I've put the 6th twice actually, so at least I'm consistent.
Members of the public.
Thank you. Thank you. Ms Button, would you like to speak? We had an email from Mr Smith, the independent person, because he raised a few queries, and if you'd like to respond on the council's behalf, please.
Yes, just to say that that Derek Smith has submitted a number of comments and questions that we're going to work through, some in relation directly to the reports being presented tonight. And so as he's not here this evening, it doesn't seem fitting to give those responses this evening. So we're going to make sure that we do that early to the middle of next week and make sure that we get in touch with him and provide those responses. And we'll obviously copy members in on that response.
Thank you. Happy with that, members? Okay, thank you. Okay, agenda item 3, minutes. It is recommended that the minutes of the meeting held on the 19th of September 2024, found on pages 5 to 12, are approved as a true and accurate record. I so move. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Spenceley. Members, does anybody wish to raise any matter of accuracy they need to indicate? Now. No, well done. That's all approved, Tara. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman.
Right, bear with me, members. I need to get my papers in order. Okay. Right, agenda item 4, matters arising. Let's go to, I'm just going to go through this, Tara, because there are still some things on here, I think. Minute number 16, I think that needs to still stay on. Does members agree? Have you seen it? Page 13, members, the matters arising from the minutes. This is to do with Councillor Driver regarding the allotments at Handley Green. Yep, agreed?
Yep.
Okay. Minute 288, a further update on audit fees would be brought to a future meeting of the committee. Deloitte should provide an update on fees as part of the 21-22-23 audit sign-off of this committee on the 5th of December. Ben, do we have them, please?
We don't have those yet, but I believe Topi and Paul will be able to provide an update on the audit fees when they present their report.
Okay, lovely. That'll be fine. The next one, the Chief Finance Officer to query with the auditors whether they could offer indemnity. I think that's pretty obvious. The answer is no, members. And I'd like to say that we had a meeting with Mr Smith, the independent person. Mr Dodson and I had a meeting with them, and I think we're going to arrange another one just to try and help him procedurally in the future, but we'll keep members informed on that. And I'd like an update on 295. Councillor Pratt raised a valid point at the last meeting, and it says that the Assistant Director of Programme Performance and Governance has met with Councillor Hayward and Councillor Pratt to discuss training records. Have we got an update on that? Is there any officers? Is Miss Hughes on the call? Councillor Pratt, did you have a meeting and how did it go?
We discussed where we might improve, especially new members or members that have elapsed, and that would be built into the future programme.
Okay. Could I ask Tara that stays on and we get an actual update from Miss Hughes, please, to the committee? So I'd like to know. Thank you. I'd like to know what is actually happening. Okay. Moving on. Agenda item 5, declarations of interest. To disclose the existence and nature of any disclosable pecuniary interests, other registrable interests and non-registrable interests relating to items on business on the agenda, having regard to paragraph 9 and appendix B of the Code of Conduct for members. Members are reminded that they are also required to disclose any such interest as soon as they become aware, should the need arise throughout the meeting. Members? No declarations, Tara. Public participation. Have we got any public participation, please?
No, Chairman, we don't have any tonight, thank you.
Okay, right, moving on to the items of business then, members. Agenda item 7, report, internal audit report. So I'm going to move hang on, bear with me. I'm actually going to ask, forgot your surname?
Cookson.
Mr Cookson, I was going to call you Ben. Mr Cookson to present the report, and I think he's going to hand it over then to our lovely two gentlemen, which I won't attempt to say their names because they've gone out of my mind as well, to present. Thanks.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to present to this committee the internal audit report. The purpose of the report is to present for consideration, comment and approval by the committee the following reports issued by BDO, the Council's internal audit service provider. First report is the progress report for 24-25 at 7A. Second report is the follow-up of recommendations report 7B, and the health and safety report at 7C. To present the first two reports, I'd like to welcome Aaron Winter and Andrew Billingham from BDO, who will present the reports. Thank you.
Thank you, and I do apologise. I have got your names written down, so I do apologise for not remembering Andrew Billingham and Aaron Winter. So if you'd like to present your reports, thank you.
Thank you very much. So our first report is our progress report, which are on pages 17 to 26. So this summarises our current progress of the 24-25 internal audit plan. Since the last meeting, we have finalised one review, and that report is in the pack, and Andrew will be covering that as part of 7C in relation to health and safety. A further 5 reviews are well underway, nearing completion of fieldwork, if not completed fieldwork. And we will be closing and reporting with management early in the new year. I believe closing meetings are already being set up for those with management. We've had correspondence, so we're confident that we have sufficient time to then wrap those up and report them really quickly in early January. And then the remaining 3 reviews for the year are all being planned and scheduled for delivery in early Q4 as well. So what I can give some assurances there is that we've got plenty of time to wrap that up, get those pieces of work done, cleared with management and brought to you ahead of our normal annual reporting cycle in the summer, where we produce our annual internal audit opinion. I was going to just remind the committee members that we brought the plan to the June meeting, which is slightly later than usual due to timings of meetings. So we did lose a little bit of time at the beginning of the year. So we're slightly behind on our normal profile of work and delivery that you've probably seen in previous years. But we're really confident that with the engagement that we've had with management, as I've just said, that we are wrapping that work up and clearing that, and we are in a good place. It does mean that we'll be bringing a few reports to the next committee meeting that we are present. That was all I was going to say on the progress report, but happy to take any questions.
Members, any questions? It's quite straightforward. What I'm going to do, I'm going to take them all at once, and then we'll do the recommendations all together, but we'll discuss the next item on the agenda, 7B, and then 7C, and then we'll put the recommendations forward. Okay, so moving on to 7B.
No, that'll be Auditor.
Oh, is that you again? Sorry. Yeah, go on.
So again, this is a periodic report that we bring to the committee in relation to the follow-up of our previously raised recommendations from our reports. You'll see here that a further 4 recommendations have been confirmed as being closed, which does include the remaining action from 2021. So actually, when I was here earlier on in the year, I did say that management were closing that one down. It just wasn't in time. We've now seen all the evidence, and that means that all outstanding recs from that year are now complete. We do have one overdue action remaining from 21-22, as you'll see in our report. There is a revised delivery date of the end of the financial year. Management have confirmed that they remain on track for that. There's been no change in that status since the last time we report. So it is classed as overdue because of the numerous times that obviously the timescales have amended. So we will not change that in our report. And then you'll see there from the licensing audit, we have one recommendation in progress. This is actually probably a good example to highlight that we agree actions with management, and sometimes it takes a bit of further work to understand if that's possible. But you'll see there that management are taking a slightly different angle to mitigate the risk that we raised. It will mean that that's why it's been pushed back slightly, but actually it coincides with a review of the SLA and therefore should help them enforce the controls that are needed to mitigate the risk that we raised. And then the remainder of the recs, 3 in total, are not yet due for follow-up. And this is probably a much better picture in terms of all the outstanding reviews are more recent from our previous last 12 months, and is showing that we're now kind of closed down a lot of those long-standing recommendations and we're a bit more up-to-date in that. So I'd like to put on record a thanks to management for the help with closing some of those down. Happy to take any questions on that report.
Members? Can I just ask a quick question? Ms Green, could I just ask, in your opinion, why has it taken so long, please, for the asset? Isn't it the asset? Yes. The council should undertake review of all assets to ensure they're currently recorded within the existing system, because it's been pushed back over a number of years, hasn't it? So in your opinion, can you just assure or reassure the committee that the council is now on top, because it's a question that's been raised on a number of occasions, please?
Thank you, Chairman. So this was a mixture of a resilience from a management perspective. So we've had quite a few changes of personnel within that team, and therefore we've not really gained the traction on that project. That was one element. The second element was a delay in us looking at what is possible in terms of IT systems. So there's quite a bit of time where we were exploring whether it's possible to do that as an internal system, or needing to do a procurement. And I'm pleased to say that we did reach a conclusion last year that we were able to utilise one of our existing software systems to be able to do this. So we have treated it as a full project. We've allocated a project resource, and we have somebody who is working on that as their main role. And we are making very, very good progress, and we've no reason to believe that we won't be able to hit the 31st of March deadline. We are having regular reviews, and we have involved members of CLT as part of those reviews to reassure them of the progress that's been made.
Okay, thank you. Is that acceptable, members? They are actually working hard to do it. Great, okay. Let's move on to the next one, which is the progress report found on pages 17 to 26. You first.
Health and safety.
Oh no, you first. Sorry, I've put in big letters Sue speaking. Sue, would you like to present it first? Read the statement out.
I think we were going to present it first, and then Sue was.
Well, that's why I looked at you first. You're just trying to confuse me. I didn't look at you.
I think there was confusion. The progress report is on page 17. The health and safety report is on page 37. So we've done the progress report, done the follow-up report, and the next report is the health and safety report, page 37.
Oh, really? Well, I've got it 17 to 26. Doing very well tonight, members. Come on then.
That's me.
Thank you.
So, yeah, on page 37 of the pack it shows the health and safety review. So this audit only examined certain aspects of health and safety, the scope of which was agreed with the service. Therefore, the assurance rating may not be indicative of health and safety as a whole. It has received a moderate assurance rating for the design of the control framework and a limited assurance rating for the operation of controls. We have raised 6 findings. There are 2 are rated as a high priority, 3 rated as medium, and 1 is a low priority. The high priority findings are around ensuring overdue risk assessments are completed and a health and safety inspection schedule is established for all of the council sites. The medium priority findings relate to updating policies and procedures, enhancing oversight of health and safety training compliance, and establishing a standard health and safety checklist for events. So that's kind of a high-level view of the health and safety report, and we're happy to take any questions unless the Chair would like to go straight to the officers for their introduction.
I think we'll go straight to Ms Green to read the statement out, please, and then members will go to Mr Beccarini, who is online.
Thank you, Chair. So as part of this audit process, the Corporate Health and Safety Manager and Mrs Wheatley met with BDO to discuss the scope of the audit right at the outset. It was intentional that they chose areas that they knew needed further work that could be progressed based upon the recommendations in the audit report. We had suggested areas that were already, had we have suggested areas that were fully implemented or lower risk, we would simply not have gained the level of value from this audit that we were looking for. Whilst the audit report has come out as read, this was expected and is reassuring as we now have an independent view on where the risks are and what should be done to resolve them. Most of this work was already underway and will continue through an audit action plan so that the deadlines stated within the report are achieved. The audit focuses only on a small area of the overall remit of the Corporate Health and Safety Manager. The quarterly health and safety reports to PGA provide members with oversight of the progress being made and have been recognised as demonstrating successful outcomes with positive feedback given by those on the PGA committee. I would therefore like to reassure members that a lot of good work continues to be done to improve health and safety compliance at Maldon District Council, and this report enables us to address those areas where there are some risks that remain. We are organising an in-person Meet the Service meeting for health and safety, which members and officers can attend to find out more about the great work that's being done in this area, and this will take place in the new year. We have come a long way in the 2 years since bringing in a Corporate Health and Safety Manager, and the importance of this role cannot be overstated. We'd like to thank the Corporate Health and Safety Manager for all his hard work and cooperation with this audit process, and his work protects both officers, members of the Council, as well as those that we serve. Our Corporate Health and Safety Manager is available via Teams to answer any questions.
Members. Councillor Lagan.
Councillor Stilts has asked me to raise a few concerns, and I've noted in there she's also asked to the committee to consider sending this report to overview and scrutiny. That's something that you guys in the regular committee could decide or not. That's just something she's asked me to put. It's difficult really for me to sound positive in the 2 years that we've had a Corporate Health and Safety Manager. When I look at page 41, where we talk about the areas that have been looked at for the internal audit, and I'll also put a caveat that there is no perfect system, that it just doesn't exist in corporate health and safety worlds. There's always faults. But some of the fundamental things that you would look at doing first thing under a health and safety manager's role, when you looked at the policies under review, it said the draft health and safety procedure index, there's 32 policies, how 23 have not been updated in the last 3 years. Well, that's over 70% that haven't been completed. You usually start with your risk assessments and your policies, because everything else spills out from that. So when you've risk assessed your broad brush risk assessment, and then you look at what you're doing for your policies to actually manage those risks, we're not compliant. And then we have a training matrix in place, so we're providing training, but we're not providing training that's necessarily sufficient and up to date. And the law actually stipulates from a risk assessment perspective that a risk assessment should be suitable and sufficient, and organisations, Mr Beccarini can attest to this, often get very, very high penalties and penalised by not having suitable and sufficient risk assessments. So the stuff that I would consider to be the fundamental work that should have been done hasn't. I think that the audit report, checklists, that they're route one stuff. I personally, there's been, I'm sure there's been a lot of good work, but I was concerned that the fundamentals that haven't been addressed are still outstanding. And I have to declare that this is my profession as well, so I'm not having a go at anybody. I'm just saying the circumstances that you would look at, this leaves me very, very worried, because you can, as I say, you've got to do your risk assessments first and fundamentally, and then you've got to do your policies, and then you've got to train out your policies, and then you look at your operational methodologies from there. So I think that the findings, and I thank the auditors for finding those and for writing them in the report in a very caring manner, rather than a manner that's often seen by tearing organisations to pieces. But it causes me more concern than it does reassurance.
I agree 100%. Mr Baccarini, do you have a response to any of the points raised by Councillor Lagan, please?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I didn't really know a direct question, so if I missed the point, then do let me know. First of all, with regards to policies, that is one of the first things along with risk assessments I started to work on. Of the policies that I have been through, there are, well, I wouldn't call errors, but there are differences. They don't reflect our operations of today. I believe they are outdated. So whilst previously we had a health and safety consultant come in and redate them, he, I believe, revised them and redated them, reviewed them himself. When I've gone through and discussed with officers, discussed with managers, there are elements in there that are still incorrect. So I believe these policies, I could have redated them and reviewed them myself, but I believe they need an in-depth review in many cases. What I've been doing with regards to that, and this has taken a very considerable period of time, is I've been trying to get every manager on board, every senior manager, and develop a matrix where a policy has a working group and an owner. So going forward, and these have been agreed, so every health and safety policy, which I have also flagged up if they're out of date and the risks to the council, this is all available. Every policy now has a working group and a leader for that policy. That took some time to agree, took some time to establish, but we've laid the foundation there. So it won't just be a case of me revising, as I believe has done before. One person has just had a cursory glance over the policy. It will be an in-depth review. With regards to the training matrix, before I arrived, there was no health and safety training matrix. I've put that in myself and tried to establish that myself. Many cases I've had to go back to training companies to obtain records of what training had actually been conducted, because the previous manager that arranged that had actually left, so the records had gone.
Mr Baccarini, I'm going to stop you there, because we had this sort of line of answering members' questions some time ago on another committee, and I think we need to be cautious about actually laying the blame previously to somebody else or the organisation previously. I think I think we've taken on board what you're actually saying, but you have been in post for 2 years or whatever, and with all due respect, that is your role. To be able to identify these things, and whilst I appreciate you maybe want to tell us exactly how much work you've done, and we are commended by that, I particularly don't want to spend the next 10 or 15 minutes of you saying that it wasn't done previous before, because I think many of us who's been around this council for a long time knew there were some issues, and we are trying to address those. So I hope you don't mind me cutting you off there, but I'm very conscious that I'm not prepared to have anybody else turning around and sort of saying the organisation was deficient in the past, because we're well aware of what it was, and that's why we took a health and safety manager on. So I'll take on board that you're being positive and you're working towards it. So is there anything else you want to say of how you're going to take the organisation forward, because it is your role, and if there's anything we need to do support you from this committee, I'm sure we will. I hope you think that's a fair comment to make.
Yes, no problem, Chair. I was just really just trying to reiterate or get across the point of the sort of foundations that have been or being put in place now, and they're the bits that are taking the time.
Yeah.
The policies and the risk assessments are all being worked upon. health and safety involves everyone, and it's
Yeah.
drawing everyone in to be involved that's taking the time.
Yeah, and I really do appreciate that. We really do, and we thank you for what you're doing. But as an organisation, and like I said to you at the pre-agenda meet, when you get a report of this nature, and it is quite difficult to read because it hadn't been brought to our attention before. But we'll park that there. I've got Councillor Spenceley and Councillor Pratt. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Mr. Baccarini. The problem of late review of policies, I think, isn't unique to health and safety in this council. I'm sure we reviewed quite late a couple of policies last year, and there will be others. And picking up one of the points that Mr. Baccarini made, I don't know if, as I experienced in another sector, we actually have a policy on policies, which sounds a bit odd, but a framework for how we review, control, document control, track policies, I think is very important. So I'd like to see that or have that refreshed for my memory if we have one. The other thing is getting sight of a definitive list of policies across the council. Again, I think in this committee we get partial views from time to time, and I may be wrong. I don't think I've seen the total framework. Not that it's our role to micromanage that, but to get a view of where we are in terms of updating policies. And I'm sure other officers can put me right. I think actually we have had reports certainly on elements of that, and it's probably down to us as members to push for a complete framework of reviewing and renewing policies.
Would you like to comment? I don't think there was really a question there, but you can have a quick comment. Thank you.
I would like to comment, Chair, that it also looks bad in respect for the health and safety policies is because we've applied an annual review. I'm aware of other policies at the council where they require review, where there's significant change. So some of these policies, they're said to be out of date, but they've not been looked at for just over a year. I'm aware of other policies that are considered in date that are perhaps 3 times that age. So it looks worse than it is, in my opinion, and the same with risk assessment. Some are just over a year, but by our own standards that we have set, they are out of date. If we, as we've said in our response, push some of those, the lesser risk items to 3 years, they would all be in period.
Okay, fine. Thank you. Councillor Pratt, please.
Thank you, Chair. Page 41, risk 1, talk about the health and safety policy that should have been reviewed in 2021. Have I misread it? Have we really got to... It says it's under review and it's in draft form. I don't understand why we have to wait 6 or 7 months for it to be approved. We're saying that we could easily get some up to date. Isn't that the top one to say, right, we'll do this first? And why do we have to wait 7 months for it to be reviewed and signed off?
I think that's a very good question, because I've put, how long has the council been working on this? When was it identified as a priority? So yes, Mr. Baccarini.
The sort of overarching health and safety policy, so the statement of intent, that document has been one of the third things that I wanted to review. The document has had significant review in terms of significant parts added to that. And not just that, every other related health and safety policy has now been catalogued and referenced in that document. So that is now the overarching document that ties into the other documents. It was ready to go earlier in the year, and then we had a sort of minor restructure. It was adjusted. It was ready to go again, and then we've had obviously the new structure with the chief exec. It's now ready again, and I believe our management response says, I think in January it should go for final sign-off.
Okay, perhaps you can help me here. I don't write policy, but surely it could have been worded, or it could have been presented and then amendments, or it could come back to be changed. So we were actually then working to a health and safety up-to-date policy, or am I being a little bit simplistic? Because it seems to me it's been sitting on the table for quite some time when it could have come to its certain, the level it was at, and then if any amendments need to be brought forward, they would be brought forward, surely.
It was circulated internally each time, and each to senior managers and assistant directors, and each time there was further feedback, and each time it was refined, basically.
Okay, all right. Well, what I would like to propose that we get the draft come into this committee as soon as possible, even if we only just review it and we see it, regardless of any future changes or recommendations that are going to required, because I certainly am not happy with this situation. So if you can make sure you do it. Tara, can you put that on the matters arising list or whatever for me, please?
I can, Chairman. I just wanted to raise that I believe that policies and policy frameworks does sit under Strategy and Resources Committee. Yeah. Just so you're aware.
Well, I'd still like to review it. We must be able to have it on performance. I must be able to bring it up here somehow on performance, surely. Councillor Spencer and Councillor Lagan.
Yes, Chair, picking up that point, I saw Tara's message and that's helpful, and I do remember reviewing specific policies in strategy and resources. And as the Chair has just said, I think there are two sides to this. One is receipt and agreement of reviews, which is strategy and resources, and then as an element of the regular reporting framework, we could get sight of the timeliness and any backlog in terms of the quantity and scheduling of reviews of policies.
Thank you. Councillor Lagan, please.
Sorry, just a quick comeback, and I hear what Mr. Baccarini says. It's a governance document. The policy, how it comes, exactly what Councillor Spencer has said. It goes through that, but it should be this committee to look at the governance of that, because it's a fundamental thing to have. You've got more than 5 employees, you have to have a written statement. I just hope that the reference documents aren't in the policy document, that they're an addendum, because otherwise we'll have a wall covered in policy references where the policy really wants to just meet the intent of what the commitment of the council actually is. The best policies I've seen are succinct and powerful in their commitment to keep people safe, because that's what it's all about. Keeping people safe first, and legislative, we know we have to work within that framework, but it's about looking after people fundamentally and protecting the council should we have any issues. So
Lovely.
It's a government's document.
Thank you. Mr. Baccarini, one last, well, maybe not, might be not be the last one, but risk 5, page 41, and I'll just go the highlighted bit, I'm not going to read it all out. It says, however, no one has yet proposed a frequency, and that's a high risk. Do we know when we're going to have a list of frequency so we can actually review the corporate health and safety for the 3 sites for the council?
So this was with respect to inspections?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. What is taking place here is with managers of each of those areas is to agree with them, firstly, their own inspection. So they'll perform their inspection, say, monthly, and then I will come along on an annual basis and I will do a more in-depth inspection. So that's what's being discussed at the moment, and I think there is some reference to that. It's just setting up and agreeing with them what is achievable.
Okay. Can I ask another question? In your because you're the health and safety manager, would you be putting a recommendation of what you think and how often the frequency would be inspected? Because that's what, to me, your role is brilliant. Because
yes. So I'll recommend to them, and then with a slight negotiation as to who will do that and what resource they have to do that. But will obviously be putting my thoughts to them.
Okay. All right. Members, anything else? Councillor Pratt, please. Thank you.
Yeah, are we taking them in turn, or are we just looking at the whole process? Because I do have a question on page 52, the risk 7, because it's a little ambiguous. The recommendation is that we have a standard checklist, and then the management response is saying that's not really what we do here. I would just like some clarification as to the auditor is saying we should have a standard checklist for outside events, and the management response is loosely worded to say that doesn't really work for us.
Well said. I won't tell you what I've written on my sheet after I'd read it, because it's not as well worded as what you've said. Mr. Baccarini, I'd like I don't know if you can respond. Would that be Ms. Wheatley to respond, Ms. Green? Oh, is it Mr Butcher? He's not here either, is he?
Now, I think on this one, I can clarify. The intention is to have a basic standard checklist, which is a starting point for all events, and then depending on the type of event it is, there may be additional things that we add. So I think that's possibly not come out perhaps as clear in that management response, but that's the intention, is that we do have a basic checklist that will apply to any type of event, which is your starting point. And then for the bigger events, etc., there may be extra things that we have for the individual event. So that is the intention.
Okay, so can I ask for that to come back as well? Because if we agree these, we're agreeing what's written here without any amendments, and I'm not happy to agree with that. Councillor Pratt was totally right.
Chairman, if I may, I believe there is a health and safety quarterly report to come back to PGA in January. Is that correct? Yeah. We could perhaps expand that report to include these items for you.
Brilliant. That's absolutely excellent. Thank you. Any more members? No? Okay. Thank you, Mr Beccarini. Right. Members, I think we're done there. So the recommendation, thank you. The recommendations are that the committee considers, comments and approves the following. Little 1, the progress report 2024-25 as at 7A. Little 2, follow up on the recommendations report to December 24, 2024 at 7B. And little 3, health and safety 24-25 final report, November 24 at 7C. I so moved. Do I have a seconder? Thank you. Councillor Pratt. Members, do we agree with the amendments and the discussions we've had?
Agreed.
Agreed, thank you. Well done, thank you very much. Okay, right. Oh, you're finished now, aren't you? Yeah, thank you very much. I think Andrew and Aaron would love to go. They were here early, Councillor Pratt. Thank you, and I'm sorry, I'm dreadful for names. It's nothing personal. I am, you know I am. And I've got them written down. No, thank you very much. Moving on, members, agenda item 8, the report of the external auditor on the audit for the financial years 2021 to 22 and 2022 to 23. I think you've all read the purpose of the report, and I will do the recommendations later. So, Mr Cookson, do you want to just start it, and then you'll hand over to our external auditors, which are Paul or Topi? Is that right? Yeah. Good.
Thank you, Chair. I'm here to present to the committee several audit reports. Appendix 1 is the ISA 260 report. Auditors are required by ISA 260 to communicate significant findings from the audit to those charged with governance, therefore the PG&A committee. Appendix 2 is the annual audit report. This report presents the auditor's commentary on the council's arrangements to secure economy, efficiency and effectiveness in the use of resources. And Appendix 3 is the audit plan report, and this report sets out how the accounts and audit process will operate. Each report covers 2 financial years, 21-22 and 22-23. We are joined this evening via Teams by Paul Hewitson and Topi Dunsi from Deloitte, who will present the reports to the committee. However, before I hand over to Paul and Topi, if it's okay, Chair, I would like to give the committee a brief introduction on the situation and the impact on the council.
Yes, please, thank you.
So, as detailed in the committee report, the UK government has implemented several backstop dates to release the backlog of local authority audits. The first of these dates is the 13th of December, so next week, for accounts up to 22-23. Therefore, the 2 years being presented this evening are within scope. As stated by the MHCLG, one consequence is that many local bodies will receive modified or disclaimed audit opinions due to circumstances largely outside of their control and where these do not signify issues in their financial accounts. Since my arrival 5 weeks ago, my primary focus has been to deliver these audits on time. I've been in regular contact with Deloitte to understand the requirements and expectations. Plus, the finance team has worked exceptionally hard to produce the evidence and information it has been asked to. In the time available, I do not believe we could have done any more, but I appreciate these audits have been outstanding for a much longer period of time. Because of the backstop date, the auditors were required to issue a disclaimer of opinion. However, it is important to clarify that the disclaimer of opinion does not inherently indicate that the financial statements are inaccurate or that the local authority is not a going concern. The auditors have explicitly stated that they have not identified any known material issues in the financial statements. The disclaimer is a result of legislative limitations rather than any identified inaccuracies or concerns about the authority's ability to continue as a going concern. In addition, the MHCLG has published guidance on audit opinions, setting out the context for modified or disclaimed opinions issued due to the backstop dates to, and I quote, help ensure that local bodies are not unfairly judged. Furthermore, the Sit for Audit Committee published a guidance document just today entitled the Local Audit Backstop, Key Questions Answered for Audit Committees. The document presents key information on the backstop dates and how audit committees can help. I will circulate this week with members following this meeting. I will now introduce Paul and Tope from Deloitte, who will present their findings from the audit and provide their audit opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. Before they come in, I'd just like to thank Mr Cookson for all this hard work he's done. He has only been here 5 weeks, and when we had our first little meeting, I'm afraid I was a little bit cruel to him. I did say I expected him to deliver, didn't I? I did crack the whip, so I'd like to personally thank you because you have delivered, and I think we need to commend you for actually doing that. So thank you very much. So over to Paul and Topi, whoever's going to do it. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Chair, and I'll be taking the lion's share of our reports.
Okay.
So, committee members, my name is Paul Hewson. I'm the Associate Partner responsible for the audit of Maldon and have been since the year 2021. Taking our first paper, which is the ISO 260 report, your Appendix A, as has already been aptly summed up, this document sets out the key commentary around the external audit. Now, ordinarily, this will be telling you the conclusion of the audit, the work that we did around the significant risks, and the conclusions. As has just been outlined, because of the implementation of the backstop and the limitation imposed by that, we are not able to complete the audit in respect of 21-22 and 22-23. And so our opinion actually is going to be a disclaimer of opinion in respect of both of those years. So if I take you into the executive summary, page 3 simply outlines what's just been gone through in terms of the local audit backlog and the reset. Taking you, the highlights that I've put on there are the disclosure deficiencies. So we've listed the identified uncorrected misstatements that we have identified for the work undertaken on pages 40, and the principal corrected mistakes on page 41. And the reason for drawing corrected mistakes to your attention is obviously this is our last year, we are bowing out at this point, but it's important the committee understand where we found problems as well as where we didn't, because that's what will help you understand where you need to challenge management in terms of making sure that errors don't arise again in the future. In terms of the unresolved audit queries, the summary that's included on pages 43 through 47, the reason that's there is because we're not giving an audit opinion, we need to give you what information we have gathered. And so that section of our report spells out the work that we have done and the reason why that work is not complete. And then the implementation of control recommendations. We've raised a number of controls both in respect of 2021 audit and then further on this current audit or these current exercises. And they're set out on pages 22 through 35, including management responses. Again, they're giving your information so you can challenge management and understand what improvements may need to be made to your financial reporting processes. The value for money procedures, backstop notwithstanding, we are still required to undertake full value for money reporting, although the requirements have been slightly modified. I'm not going to steal the thunder of my next report other than to say that we did not identify any risks of significant weakness or significant weaknesses in your arrangements, and therefore my audit report, my disclaimer opinion, will not make reference to any significant weaknesses in your value for money arrangements. In terms of duties as public auditor, you may be aware that there are a few things that can happen where an audit is being undertaken. Local electors can make an objection to the accounts to us. They can require us to consider issuing a public interest report or making an application to the courts to seek a declaration of something contrary to law, and there are other powers afforded to me under the Local Audit Accountability Act. I'm pleased to report to the committee that I did not receive any objections or queries from local electors. I did not identify any matters requiring me to issue a public interest report, and I have not exercised any other powers of the Local Audit Accountability Act. In terms of interaction with the incoming auditor, we will cooperate with your incoming auditor, who takes over from 23-24 onwards, which I understand to be KPMG. The backstop date for them to complete their audit on the 23-24 is the 28th of February 2025, so these backstop dates do start to come fairly thick and fast. So, yeah, we will cooperate with KPMG to what extent they wish to understand what work we have and have not done. I'm going to take the rest of the report as read and at pace, Chair, with your permission. Page 7 just highlights the impact on my opinion. So those of you with long memories that can remember the last opinion that we gave, these are the key paragraphs in the 21-22 that will be different, where we say that we've got a disclaimer opinion and the reason for that disclaimer. As we put on page 8 through 18, we've got the summary of the work that we have undertaken and the conclusions that we reached. On page 19, we indicate the materiality that we work to. It's worth highlighting that had we identified anything materially wrong in your financial statements, we would have required it to be changed. Otherwise, we would have had to issue a different form of opinion. And we did require some change to be made to the 22 and 23 financial statements, principally around the classification of investment properties, but also around the presentation of your cash flow statement. The section of value for money, I'm not going to speak to, I'm going to report on that in a moment. The internal control observations, I'm not going to read them out to you, they're given for your information. If there are any the committee would like me to dwell upon, I'm more than happy to give more flavour and context in respect of those. The uncorrected misstatements that remain present in the 21-22 statement of accounts are set out on page 41, and the disclosure deficiencies that are similarly present are on page 42. And then the rest of the report summarises the outstanding work that I was unable to issue you with a normal audit opinion. I'm going to pause there. There's an awful lot in the report, but an awful lot is given for information and digestion at leisure as opposed to being read out to you in this committee.
Okay, members, I'd like to thank you for the report. When I've read it twice, and I could say I've got a few emotions really going on there, thinking, oh my goodness, and then getting to the end and being reassured that we're absolutely okay. We're not brilliant, but we've done very, very well. But I'd like to ask Mr. Cookson a question, if possible, before we move on. Are you aware, or do you know if everything that's been highlighted in this report has been instigated, changed, amended, or not? Please.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, that's a good question. This week's been quite a busy week in terms of working with TOPEC on a daily basis to go through this exact list here. So you'll see in the report pack, it's TBC on all the management responses. Yeah. We've been through that and we have addressed all the deficiencies that have been brought up and provided a management response. So I'll ensure that updated report is circulated with members. But just to add that the finance team were aware of these issues. As you can appreciate, this is an audit from 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. So most of these deficiencies are already embedded in the processes within the finance team. And I've been through that a number of times with the finance team to ensure that this is done. So I am satisfied that those deficiencies have been addressed.
Thank you. That's, I think, a bit of reassurance from for the committee, because I think we all was a little bit concerned in case nothing had changed. Councillor Pratt, please.
I think Mr. Cookson has answered in preempting my question, because whenever you read this, it's always summed up with, we have no matters to report by exception in our financials, and we have not identified any risks. And as you state, this is sort of 2 to 3 years old. how are we doing looking where we are now rather than where we are in 2 years or in 2 years past?
I've spent all the time I've been here, my focus, as well as doing the audit, but has been building resilience in the finance team and looking where we've got skills gaps. Because I'm aware of the situation, I'm looking at why we've got to this situation, and I've got to come up with an answer as to plausibly why we are there and what we can do about it. We definitely need more skills in the finance team, so I'm going to be putting a growth bid forward for that, to ensure that we've got skills within the finance team. And I'm also looking to gain SIT for accreditation as well for finance staff, well, all staff, to ensure that there is a pathway for staff to be trained. So I'm totally aware of that. In terms of the net 23-24 audit, the backstop date is coming very soon. We need to publish the accounts by next Friday for public consultation. So it's a very tight deadline, but I've been in touch with KPMG regularly to make sure that the team are delivering. At this time, I've got full confidence in the finance team that we can deliver on that. And then moving forward, it's about incrementally improving and making sure that the finance team are resilient.
Councillor Pratt. Members, have we got any questions for Paul? No? Paul, thank you very much. Would you like to continue?
Certainly, Chair. So the next paper is the Auditor's Annual Report, and this sets out the findings in respect of our value for money responsibilities. So members will be aware that we have two responsibilities. One is to look at the financial statements, the numbers and the words around it, and the other one is to look at your arrangements and process and procedures to secure value for money. It's important to note that we don't test whether you deliver value for money, just whether or not your arrangements are conducive to doing so. The report here sets out the narrative that we have formulated when undertaking that work. As I said, I've already stolen this headline slightly. We did not identify any risks of significant weakness, and we did not identify any significant weakness. Now, it might sound slightly repetitive, but it is two different things. One is a risk and one is actually identifying it, but we didn't find either in this case. Page 4 is just a bit of introduction. Page 5 talks about our responsibilities. The only difference to a normal report as part of the backstop arrangements is that improving economy, effectiveness and efficiency, that third criteria all the way down page 5, that has been dropped for this exercise in order to facilitate audits moving forward, but also in recognition of the fact that we're talking about arrangements that were in place 12 months ago, and therefore it is less important because the 3 E's bit there, the bottom two is usually quite forward-looking, and therefore thinking of something that's quite forward-looking when it's already 12 months in the past was of limited value. The narrative that we set out in the following 4-ish pages, yes, 4 pages, spells out the observations that we make in respect of your arrangements. We start on page 6 with a bit of scene setting around your financial position, your reserves, your balance sheet strength. We have some commentary on the process that we observed around you identifying financial pressures in the short and medium term. We were generally satisfied that you had procedures in place. We could see there was evidence of appropriate challenge and appropriate focus and appropriate recognition of pressures and horizon scanning in the process for developing and delivering that medium-term financial plan. We did, however, note that there is some scope for better triangulation between the strategic objectives and the medium-term and long-term financial planning. We're not saying that these things don't exist in isolation, they absolutely do, but a really good entity would have them meshed together in a way that would be really transparent and really obvious to the external reader, and we just felt that could be strengthened slightly. But despite that, as we say, the company demonstrates a strong commitment to aligning its financial plans with other strategies, and the medium financial plans regularly reviewed, and you had a robust process for identifying and incorporating financial pressures. And I think I would say that that's something that we've seen develop in the time we've been here. I know that you had the peer review that identified some gaps, and that your previous 151 officer undertook quite a lot of work to try and really build that planning and resilience piece on the financial pressures, and so we were quite pleased to see that. On the governance side, we observed the risk management policy, we observed the risk management process, we were able to see that there were specific risks around managing financial pressure, we were able to see the responses to those risks. Obviously, you have an functioning internal audit service. Apologies to the internal auditors for left, we seem to have somehow mangled the actual form of their opinion at the bottom of page 8 there. What you actually got was moderate assurance, so in the final version of the issue, it won't say reasonable assurance with no limited improvement, they'll just say moderate assurance. We were satisfied that you had a system of budgetary controls and budget setting process. We have reported, as we said there, a number of weaknesses in the financial reporting and close process, which were the subject of the controls in our previous paper, which members have already questioned, so I'm not going to belabor that point, but just to say that that is part of a read across the previous two reports. We were happy that we could see that there was robust challenge and scrutiny within the organisation, and that there was appropriate promotion of standards of conduct and a good commitment to budget control, risk management, informed decision making. We have that one recommendation on page 11 that just concerns that triangulation piece and that real clarity of a golden thread running through everything at the authority, which will just help make these things stitch together and knit together a little more clearly to the outside reader. But other than that, I'm happy to take any questions, Chair.
Thank you, Paul. I'm just going to read the recommendation out you've referred to on page 11, members. So if you just indulge me, I think it, and I'd like it minuted, if that's all right, Ms. Bird, because the recommendation on the report, Appendix 2, says, we recommend the Council clearly articulate how prioritised savings will support the long-term delivery of statutory services and explicitly link these savings to the financial projections within the medium-term financial statement. This will provide greater transparency and assurance to stakeholders regarding the financial sustainability of the Council's operations. We encourage the Council to embed this approach within its planning process to ensure ongoing alignment between financial plans and service delivery. I think that was excellent when I read that. I was very pleased that you'd written that, so thank you. That's not being condescending, that's me. Thank you for highlighting, because it's quite serious. Okay, members, do we have any questions? Councillor Spenceley, please.
Thank you. This is kind of preempting the independent person's comments, which I know are being dealt with separately, but he does raise the issue of going concern, and this is a unique situation to me on the various audit committees I've been on, and pretty much for organisations around the country because of the circumstances you described. But am I right in saying basically that the disclaimer prohibits you from commenting on going concern, even though a kind of common sense scrutiny of our reserves, debts, etc. would suggest that we are indeed a going concern?
Okay, there's probably two ways of unpacking that question. A local authority cannot fail to be a going concern. Because you're a tax-raising body and the code of accounting practice that you work to requires you to prepare your accounts on a going concern basis. So an authority, other than by means of being struck off, i.e. dissolved with its services not going anywhere, wouldn't ever prepare its accounts on a breakup basis. Like a basis other than going concern. So going concern, put that word in a box, it's not really a thing for local authorities. But if you talk about financial sustainability, which is in the same sport, but not quite the same concept, our auditor's annual report obviously speaks directly to the financial sustainability piece, and that's why we talk about the arrangements and the reserves and the resilience that's in there. Had I had a concern about your financial sustainability, I would have raised it as a significant weakness in my VFM work and in my audit opinion. So the fact that I didn't do that, you can read that I was satisfied that there were no significant weaknesses in the arrangements. Obviously, we made a recommendation where things could be strengthened, but generally we felt that we had sufficient financial stability, sufficient reserves, and a commensurate programme of planning and management and efficiency to secure financial sustainability for the near term.
Councillor Spenceley wants to come back.
Yeah, just to thank you, because we can take a positive message from that, which I absolutely agree with. So thank you for that clarification.
Members, any more questions? No. Paul, would you like to continue? Appendix 3?
Chair, I'm going to take advice here because I don't know how much point there is in presenting Appendix 3 because Appendix 3 is the plan that resulted in the 2 reports that I've just delivered. So if you actually read Appendix 3 alongside Appendix 1, you'll see that all the things we said we were going to do in Appendix 3 are the things that we've reported that we have done in Appendix 1. So the plan has been delivered.
Okay.
It says an awful lot of what I've already told you. Given it was circulated in advance, it might be more efficient to really take questions on that because I don't know what I would gain by telling you these are the things that we will do. And once I've already told you that I've done them.
Okay, well, the reason I wanted Appendix 3 mentioned was on page 7. I really liked your comment and wanted to thank you. To me, it's important. It says, we will cooperate with KPMG, your appointed auditor, 23-24 onwards in the handover for the audit of the council. And I wanted to thank you because that was very, 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 well, I'm very pleased that you've actually said that and put it in writing. So thank you. Anybody got any points or any questions? I've got just something to ask Ben to be able to do, but I can take that offline, members, just that I want to, when I was reading it, I put in big letters, ask Ben to come back to the committee. Anybody else got any questions? Yes, please. Oh, yeah, of course you can.
Yeah, just finally, I just wanted to say thank you to Paul and especially to Orpe for the commitment to hitting the backstop there, really, and supporting myself and Charlotte and the team in making sure we could do that. So thank you.
All right. Does anybody else want to say anything, or I'm going to move to the recommendations, members? Paul, Topi, would you like to say anything? Because you've attended and you've not said anything.
I just want to say, I would definitely just to thank Ben also for the support of the committee because it's been quite a struggle getting to this day, but actually they've been quite supportive in helping us make sure we have all we have in order to present this report to you. So that's what I just want to say. Thank you, Ben.
Thank you. Paul, have you got anything else to say before I go to the recommendations?
At the risk of sounding like a stuck record, it has been a struggle getting here. It has been a struggle, and it's not just not just Ben's efforts, but then we put a lot of effort as well to help us move things along, to help get the 21-22 financial statements to the point. We did find problems with them, and Toby and I had protracted discussions around the classification of investment property, and then we did an awful lot of work with the finance team to understand the nature of the assets, why they were classified, where they should be classified, what should be moved, and all of that was a real fight. It is not the case that every single organisation around the country is going to get there by the 13th. It definitely isn't. A lot of them are going to go right down the wire. The fact that we are here, a week and a day ahead of the deadline, and actually I think we could probably sign it in the next couple of days. We just need to do the exchange. It's not something to be proud of, because I would like to have a happier ending than we've got at the minute, but certainly we've made the best of where we are.
Thank you. I'd also like it minuted to thank Miss Lucas. She's worked very hard when she joined the organisation. And I must say I'm very, very relieved, because I didn't want to be on the naughty list for 4 years if we didn't produce these accounts and they didn't go through, because you would go on the naughty step for quite a while. Councillor Lagan, before I move the recommendations.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, obviously I'm only a substitute on this committee, and it's I haven't been on a committee before, but it's been really refreshing to see the formation and Mr. Cookson, the amount of work that's been done and the agile way it's been delivered and the positive way it's been transferred to non-financial people, i.e. me, because I'm not an accountant or have a financial bone in my body, it's been remarkable. So just formally, from myself as a member and as the chairman of the council, I just want to say thank you so much for that absolutely amazing work in such a short period of time.
And your team.
Yes. And pass it to all of them. I'll be mentioning them later.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Logan. Okay, members, let's move it along. The recommendations are, little one, that members consider the ISA 260 audit report for 2021-2022 and 2022-2023 at Appendix 1. The ISA 260 report aims to ensure that auditors communicate significant findings from the audit to those responsible for governance, such as the Board of Directors or Audit Committee. Little 2, that members consider the annual audit report for 2021, 2022 and 2022, 2023 at Appendix 2. This report evaluates how effectively an organisation uses its resources to achieve its objectives. And little 3 members, that members consider the audit plan report for 2021, 2022 and 2022, 2023 at Appendix 3. This report sets out the plan for the upcoming audit. I so moved. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Spenceley, please. Members, can we agree by assent?
Agreed.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Would anybody like to say anything before I move forward? I'd like to thank the officers who have attended in person. I think it's no secret that I do like officers to attend in person, and I know some have to attend online, which is okay, but I do prefer this committee. I think this committee sometimes is not always put in the high esteem it should be, and I'd like to thank you members for contributing and making sure that you've read all the documents. So thank you very much, and the officers who are actually here today. So thank you very much. So we're going to move on to, unless I've made a mistake, Tara, and I'm sure you'll pick me up. I'd like to thank Paul and Topi. You are now free to leave and go enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you very much. And any other business the chairperson decides are urgent, I have none. So thank you, members. The closure of the meeting is 8:31, is it? 8:32? 8:35. Thank you, Tara. Thank you, members. Safe journey home. It's horrible weather. Thank you.
Chairman, just wait for the